Hello, my name is Sarah Sloan, and you are listening to The Sarah Sloan Show. How are you guys? If you're not doing well, maybe put in the comments why. Like literally just the letter Y. If you want to, but you don't have to. You don't have to. Oh man. I've been on a crazy fast food kick. I don't know what's wrong with me. All these apps, they have these great deals. Like buy one, get one this, buy one, get one that. And if you guys can't do the math, that's two. You're getting two things for the price of one. And you probably should have only gotten one. And even then, you probably should have gotten zero. But then you eat both those things. And then you're just like, ay, caramba, what have I done? Why am I eating all of this? Like Dairy Queen with their blizzards, buy one, get one free blizzard. I did not mean to have two large blizzards, but then I do. In one sitting. No, okay, I'm kidding. I'm not that bad yet. Yeah, and I'm one of those people where it's like, why even make sizes? I'm going to get the biggest size. Don't make a size chart. Just me say big one and me order big one. And that's what me get. That's what me does. Ew, I hate talking like that. I'm not proud of myself. I just got through a book, a very good book. Megyn Kelly's book, her biopic, Settle for More. Settle for more, not for less, for more. It was very interesting. It was really around the time, she wrote it around the time that she had asked that famous debate question to Trump.
One of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account...
Thank you.
For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president? And how will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correctness. And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either.
So she asked that question, and Trump, behind the scenes, and then in front of the scenes, was furious at her. And it really kind of ruined her life for a little bit. All the Trump fans would attack her, over the internet, not physically attack her. She was never like beat up or anything like that. She had to get security because of it. And then like later, she finally is just done with this. And she meets with him in his office in Trump Towers. And she's like, the gist of it was, hey, this has got to stop. It's like really, it's ruining my life. And he was just like, oh, like it didn't even faze him. He was more into like the story and the drama. Oh, I don't like Megyn Kelly. She's the worst. Get her, guys. He wasn't like actually angry at her 100%, but it was insane. But in general, like her trajectory of like not coming from a wealthy family, and like, look where she is today. She made it on to Fox News, had her own primetime show, then left like $100 million offer from them, and went on to do NBC News because she wanted to spend more time with her family. And then the crazy scandal at NBC, which it wasn't at that point in the book, because it would have been very interesting if she wrote about that part in the book. But the scandal at NBC was she asked a simple question in a panel: is blackface wrong? Because whenever I was a child, this is her speaking, whenever I was a child, people would try to emulate their heroes. And so white kids would wear blackface because, you know, they thought Michael Jordan was cool or things along those lines. They weren't doing it in a racist way. And boom, just because she asked that, oh my gosh, her life was over for the time. And so then she just kind of stayed out of the spotlight. And then she emerged doing her own independent show. She really had a lot of like kind of pushes. She saw just where the culture was going, and she's like, if I can help in any way, I want to. And she's been doing her own independent show for like 3 years now. She's got over 1 million subscribers and counting, and her show is awesome. I have yet to miss a single one of her podcast episodes. What will I be doing after I record this podcast? Listen to her podcast. It's just, she's very good at just delivering the news, staying strong to her, to the facts, but it's okay with a little bit of her opinion. You know her opinion, but it does not take away from the fact that you're knowing the facts of the story. It's just a really good way to tell the news, I feel like. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe one day I'll stop listening to her, but yeah, I have yet to feel that way. Her show is just that good. It's insane. I'm sure you guys are thinking, yeah, that's how I feel about this show, Sarah. Like, best show I've ever heard. And man, just call me Megyn Kelly, because that's my new name. Yeah, but speaking of journalists, so something that kind of interesting that's been happening in the House of Representatives, the U.S. House of Representatives, of course, they're really talking about this bill in a committee. They're talking about this bill in a committee. It's like free press. It's about freedom of the press. And they had Catherine Herridge and Cheryl Atkinson. Wow, I can't say her name. And they're both investigative journalists who really felt like they were kind of stopped from doing their job by the company. And interestingly enough, it was CBS that they felt this way. So Catherine Herridge, she's the one that she was like fired in around February, but she kind of thinks it has to do with the fact that she was looking into the criminal side of Hunter Biden. And this leftist media company is like, no, you can stop. We're just going to get rid of you. I actually wanted to play what she was saying about it whenever she was in the committee.
When I was laid off in February, an incident reinforced in my mind the importance of protecting confidential sources. CBS News locked me out of the building and seized hundreds of pages of my reporting files, including confidential source information. Multiple sources said they were concerned that by working with me to expose government corruption and misconduct, they would be identified and exposed. I pushed back, and with the public support of my union, SAG-AFTRA, the records were returned. CBS News' decision to seize my reporting records crossed a red line that I believe should never be crossed again by any media organization in the future. The litigation and being held in contempt have taken a toll on me and my career. This is not a battle you can fight alone. I am grateful for the support of fellow journalists and multiple First Amendment organizations.
It's absolutely insane. She is having to pay a daily fine to keep her sources confidential. And it's a $800 fine is what she claims. If you know anything about journalism, if you're reporting kind of an intense story, you have to get sources, trusted sources. And if those sources are revealed, that person could lose their job. Somebody works for the FBI and they're like, hey, what's happening in the FBI is really messed up. And then the journalist is like, tell me about it. I'll include it in the story. And they're like, can you keep me anonymous, please? Yes, of course. I'll never reveal who you are. Thank you. And then what are they trying to do? Tell us who that person was in that story that you wrote. What? The whole basis of them even getting that, the journalist getting that information from the source, was the fact that it was going to be kept confidential. Their identity. And so it's scary. If people aren't willing to share information, news is important. It really is. And I think for sure, I'm going to admit this. I think journalists definitely think they're more important than they actually are. They overstate their importance. But it is still important. And right now, the reason journalism has been so bad in this day and age is because typically you had the journalist in opposition to the government. Now, it seems like they're in lockstep. They're in support of one another. When it was Trump in the White House, oh, for sure, the journalists, they did their jobs. They looked at everything. They made up stories. They did all they could. While Biden's been president, they've been much more supportive, working in line with him, not covering the big stories. You knew everything that would happen in the Trump White House. Everything would be leaked. With Biden, not nearly as much. It's insane. And so, yeah, what Catherine Herridge is saying, she's been a good reporter for CBS for the longest time. And yeah, for them to just raid her stuff, take all her papers away, lock her out of the building, make her lose her job, and while she's been a great employee for so many decades, yeah, that's not a really good look on the state of media. And then the other lady, Cheryl Atkinson, she is in a different situation right now because she's really gone independent. And so she's not like so freshly wounded. I think she stopped in like 2014. But I also wanted to play what she had to say.
Hear people say, and I agree with this, that the government should not be intervening in news coverage. But in my experience at CBS, that happens every day. Members of committees, heads of committees, members of Congress, and the White House call the Bureau in Washington, D.C., contacts that they have, editors and managers up in New York to try to shape our coverage.
Well, that I don't find particularly objectionable, as long as there is no force or threat of force behind that. Do you find that to be the case? Or,
I don't know what was said.
There...
I just know they called. There's no physical force threatened, but there certainly is a great deal of pressure, weighing on the networks in terms of their coverage.
Well, what about government acts directly? Have you encountered such intimidation yourself directly from the government, or is that all kind of channeled through your employers?
Well, I felt a great deal of pressure channeled through my employers. I was told that certain stories weren't going to air because we were getting phone calls, and even though there was nothing wrong with the stories, let's just let it rest for a day. Let's pick it up another time. They're really mad this time. And there was no objection over the content of the story or the facts. It was they just, as I was told, they just didn't like it, or it was a story that they felt was unfavorable at times.
You hear from Cheryl, and she's just explaining her own situation where, yeah, she knew of government officials calling the media companies and saying, hey, don't do this or do this. And this representative, he doesn't think that's really an issue. He thinks it's only an issue if somehow they are going to threaten force. I do disagree. I think that these conversations that they're having with the media, even if they're not threatening force, I don't think you're being above reproach. I don't think you're being a public servant. Government officials, they are supposed to serve the people, and you're not serving the people by trying to dictate what news is given to the people by the journalist. So it's really kind of nasty and squirmy, and also why are you wasting time calling media companies when you should be serving us, whatever agency it is, whatever it might be? Our taxpayer dollars should not be paying you for you to call journalists and complain about what they are saying about you. That's not what our taxpayer dollars were supposed to be funding. And then also, no one can tell me that this isn't influencing coverage. It is influencing coverage. And so, yeah, I can understand for sure. Yeah, obviously, if there's a threat of force, that is worse, but it's still bad to have any influence at all. Stick your head down, continue to work, public servants, and let the journalists do what they need to do. If you really find something objectionable, then sit down for an interview and talk about it, and then we'll get to hear it. Let's lay it out in the open. I don't like these secrets. It's not private servants, it's public servants. All right. So, Ellen, she's been out of the spotlight for a bit now. Ellen DeGeneres, she really, the big thing of the story was that she is a crazy boss, and yet on her show, she was known to be so nice, so lovely, so sweet, when in reality, she's just not. She's just not. And, that's not a crime. It's not a crime to be a bad boss, to be mean, but you were being a little fake, and people have a right to change their opinion on you when they realize the truth. Yeah, I've got employees for this podcast, and I'm not the nicest boss. Yeah, I've got a person that turns on my computer and turns off my computer. His name is Brad, and sometimes he doesn't turn on my computer quickly enough. This hand has had to smack him a couple of times. But I know whenever I'm on this podcast, I come off so nice and so sweet and so wonderful. And yet Brad sees a different side of me. So, I just felt like I should be honest about that right now. Transparency is king. But Ellen, she stayed quiet for a bit, for the most part. And now she's kind of coming out of the woodwork and saying, hey, I'm going to be doing stand-up again. Yeah, baby, stand-up comedy. And she's beginning to sell tickets. I looked at one of the shows just to see how much the tickets cost. She's got them all over the country, by the way, that she's doing. And she's saying that they're going to add more. The cheapest you could go for the nosebleed section is like $69 for this one show I saw. So, and then obviously, if you want to spend money watching somebody, any concert, stand-up comedy, they will let you spend your money. What was one of these? Like, in general, you can go in the hundreds, like 200, 400, 800. And then the most expensive I'm seeing currently is 4,000. So, yeah. So, if you want to throw your money away watching Ellen do comedy, do it, please. And then also it was interesting, I saw whenever I was looking at the tickets, they said, hey, just wanted to let you know that you do have to lock your phones up for this. And so you can't access your phones, which is very interesting as well. I think that's a good thing in comedy, by the way, but that's a little side note. I find this to be very interesting that Ellen is now going back to her roots. She was a stand-up comic so long ago, and she just hasn't really done that as much in a very long time. And I heard one comedian say they were frustrated by her show that she never really let comics go on there and perform, versus a lot of the other late night shows. They'll have comics come and do their thing, and it's a big opportunity. Like, oh my gosh, I get to perform 5 minutes in the Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show. Like that can make your career. That's something that you could put on your resume. That's insane if you get to do something like that. But Ellen never really gave that opportunity to other comics. And so that's something they were always kind of angry about. But yeah, as I think I've said before, I'm interested in comedy. I've been trying it. And so what you do is whenever you're writing your jokes, it becomes your material. That's what they call it, material. And it's not easy to come up with. And then, you got to make it fresh. You can't use the same stuff forever. There's some people, oh my gosh, if they could repeat the same 5 jokes for the rest of their life and get away with it, they would. And, saying the same jokes to different crowds, You can do that. You can do that. But at some point, like, are you trying to make it or not? Do you want to be a comedian or not? Because you got to do some new stuff. So it's not easy to come up with material. And I guess she came up with some stuff and she's got a show to do for it. And I don't know if she's got any openers. That's whenever a famous comedian will bring somebody who's less famous and they'll have them do just a little bit of time before them. They'll open the show, whatever, do 20 minutes, and then the actual comedian will do like whatever, like an hour, something along those lines. Some comedians will also they'll bring several openers and they'll just do 5 minutes, and then they'll come and do their real show. So, yeah. So if you want to see Ellen do some comedy, boom. Looks like everything's sold out. Psych. But I will say it does look like things are selling in general. I'm not going to say they're not. They are selling. The $116 tickets, that's probably what's selling the best. Gosh, it's so expensive. It's so expensive to just go and watch stuff, like go to a sports game live or go to a music concert live. It's so expensive. And then you just got to deal with the ticket costs, and they conflate the prices, driving there with all the traffic because everybody else is going there too, parking, sitting, finding your seat in this huge place, going to the bathroom, if they're trying to get you to get food. It's just insane, the cost. And yeah, thank you, Ellen, that's what you're going to make us do. I'm not happy with her right now. Oh, wait, I never have been. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what she says. So I went to the Joe Rogan's club, the comedy Mothership, and it's in Austin, Texas, on their famous 6th Street. And that also, by the way, whenever you go in there, you have to lock up your phones. Now, what you do is you get this electronic pouch kind of a thing. You put your phone in it. It's closed, and the only way it can be opened is their mechanism to open it. So you get to hold your phone with you the entire time, but you can't touch it. You can't. It's just not going to work. There's nothing you can do in there. And it's an interesting idea. And then, of course, you're not going to steal this pouch because you want to be able to open your phone again. So as you're leaving, they open it for you. They take the pouch back, and then you go back with your phone. Also, if you ever happen to go to one of these things, this is just a bit of information. Any wireless earbuds, they're going to also try to fit that into that pouch as well. But it gets very tight. Whenever I had my earbuds, they crammed it in there. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you about to break it? And it was so embarrassing because I had dropped the earbuds into my backpack as they were searching my backpack. And so then they're like, are the earbuds actually in the case? And they weren't. And I was like, I'm sorry. And I was grabbing it back from the security guys. And I was it was so embarrassing. I hated that. Oh yeah. And then they were searching me and I didn't realize it was so strict. I had this I have a very small Swiss Army pocket knife. And, man, I could do some damage with that thing. That's a joke. It's so small, but I love it. It's always on my keychain, and they were going to make me throw it away, but that thing wasn't cheap. It was basically 40 something bucks. So I was like, is there anything I could do to not throw that away? And they're like, well, you can go to a bar, next door and ask them to keep it for you. And then, yeah, I basically tipped the person $5 for keeping it for me, but I got it after the show. It was insane. So don't bring any weapons, by the way, as well. But no, yeah, it was a super nice club. And what I went to the show they have called Kill Tony. And the whole point of that show is that it gives opportunities to potential stand-up comedians. And so people sign up, and their names are put in a bucket, and famous comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, he'll have a guest with him on stage. They'll pull a name out of the bucket. If you're an aspiring comedian, you hope it's your name because you signed up, and then you get to perform 1 minute of comedy, and then they evaluate you, talk to you, interview you, ask you a bunch of questions like, what special talents do you have? what are your interests? What's your job? Where are you from? How old are you? Are you dating anybody? Like all kinds of questions. And yeah, and then they tell you, like what they thought of your minute of stand-up comedy. But yeah, you're performing in front of a full audience. And so it's a very interesting show. And yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, it's super popular. It's a extremely popular show. But it's exciting. It's an exciting thing to watch because some people are really good and then some people are really awful. And then either way, you're getting to see famous comedians because they're hosting the show. And so, but yeah, that was a cool experience to see it. It's kind of changing Austin and the landscape. It's before, I would say, I don't know much, but from what I do know, it seemed like if you were interested in improv, you would go to either improv or stand-up. Sorry, both aspects of comedy. You would go either to Chicago, you would go to New York City, or you would go to LA. Either one of those three places. If you wanted to make it in comedy, you would go there. Now, I think if you're really interested in stand-up, Austin, Texas is really becoming the big place. It's where just so many famous comedians are moving. And Joe Rogan really started it, and everybody else is kind of joining him now. So it's very interesting. And yeah, the club is very beautiful, by the way. It's super nice. And then there's other clubs, and yeah, I even follow like an Instagram page where it's like different opportunities where you can do stand-up, open mics where you kind of practice your materials. You see if people like your jokes or not. And yeah, there's Instagram pages that you can follow and they'll tell you kind of where it's going on and all that. So yeah, it's really becoming the place in a way. Now, of course, I'm sure like there's still a lot happening in the other cities. And even where I live in a small town in East Texas, I'm still able to kind of try out stuff as well. So as long as you have a couple of clubs around you that host open mics and you can practice, then you're pretty much good to be able to really try this out. So it's nice. It's very nice. Wow, I talked a lot about that. That's crazy. That's so crazy. But I'm done talking about it. And I'm not going to do it again. Psych, tricked you. Okay, so the next story. Oh my gosh. This is a throwback for me. So, I remember I was in high school. I think I was like just entering high school. And a new boy band was coming onto the scene. You might have heard of them. Actually, you might not have. Unless you're like my age or something and a female, you probably haven't. One Direction. And it was a UK group of 5 guys. And they were just, oh my gosh, I was so attracted to them. They had cool music. It was everything for me. And yeah, now of course I'm a little embarrassed looking back that I was that obsessed, but still, you could play some of their songs today and they're bangers. They're good. They're good songs. Can I think of any to say right now? No, I can't. Because I'm nervous. Talking about them. I don't know why. I'm not blushing, but I'm scared. There was, Harry Styles, Louis Tomlinson, Niall Horan, Zayn Malik, and the one I don't care as much about, Liam Payne. Yeah. So all 5 of those guys, and, they would wear their matching outfits and all this kind of stuff, and they'd sing these boppy songs, and they had these accents that were just so fun to listen to. And, Harry Styles, he was always my favorite. I thought he was so cute. And you just, as a girl, just like looking at a celebrity guy, you're just like, one day we'll be together. And it's so stupid. It's like, grow up. But yeah, now we are together and it's cool. No, I'm kidding. For now. But I remember just like, kind of following some Instagram pages about One Direction, like fandom and all that. And I remember this trend of what they call Larry Styleson. Now, what that is it's the combination of Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson. 2 members of the band, and they merged their names. Now, why did they do that? because these weird little girls thought because they're guys that joke with each other that they're somehow in a gay relationship. And they obviously weren't, but I always remember that, always just emerging on the pages, on the Instagram pages. And it was just like, they're just guys messing with each other. Stop making this out to be something that it is, or something to be more than it is. But it was constant. There were Instagram pages dedicated to it. There were cartoons made, like photos and everything. There were like edited videos where it just like show like moments of them like teasing each other, like hugging each other, whatever. And they were really trying to make this a thing. People wrote fan fiction about it that, gosh, probably crossed a lot of lines. It was just an obsession. And sadly, some people still believe it's going on to this day. They still believe that these two guys are in a relationship, and they're not. And it's plain as day to see, but they're still stuck onto it. And it was always an aspect of like, oh, I enjoyed this band, but these fans are so gross and weird that they're trying to do this. Like, imagine how frustrating it would be as Louis and as Harry to just have this projected onto you. I'm sure at first they were like, oh, that's funny, whatever. They're just being silly. The fans are being silly. But for it to just go on and on and on when it's not true. And you're just like, please, can we stop this? This is not a thing. This is not a relationship that's happening. And what would happen long enough? Anything you say about each other, anytime you're together, if you go to a restaurant together, if you go to a coffee shop together, if you're hanging out in any way, people are going to come to conclusions and they're going to make it weird. And so what's that going to make you want to do? Oh, well, maybe you're not going to want to spend as much time together. And a wholesome bro friendship that they had is now severed and broken apart. And it's sad. It's really sad. So the reason this even comes to mind is because very recently Louis was being interviewed and they asked him about it again. And he just gave kind of his just honest opinion.
There is nothing I can say, there's nothing I can do to dispel the believers of that conspiracy. They are so intertwined with what they believe to be the truth now that they won't actually see the truth for what it is. I'd be lying if it does irritate me a little bit, you know, but it is just kind of nature of the job, I suppose. There are times where it gets a little bit, you know, at times it gets far too personal within that whole space. I've got my son Freddie, he's the most important person in my life. Occasionally, you know, it kind of broaches in stuff that is kind of really unfair.
Of course he's annoyed, and he's being very calm about it. But everyone's complaining right now about what? The AI stuff. That someone can put your face on a porn video. Anyone's face can be on a porn video now, and it can look pretty dang realistic. And that feels like what? Such a violation. Like, ew. I don't want to see my face on some porn star doing whatever acts. That's gross. That's awful. It's disgusting. Well, the pictures, the fan fiction, these sexual stories, sure, I guess it's not a deep fake AI, a porn video, although let's be real, just give them a little bit of time and somehow these fans will find a way to do it. But that's real weird. And Louis talking about his kid. One day his kid will be older and he can look up these stories of Harry and Louis and the stuff that they did together. And it just crosses all kinds of lines of what is wrong and what is right. And by the way, this is wrong. I guess the question more is, yeah, why do these fans have to stick to this? Why do they have to believe it? Why are they so obsessed with it? With the idea that they're together? Why can't they just accept the fact that they're not? And I think it's just kind of this conspiracy and yeah, it's people can put their identities into conspiracies. And I think we always just think of it like, oh, what really happened on 9/11? Jeffrey Epstein, was he killed or did he kill himself? You know, like those kind of things. But I think people forget that there could be conspiracies on just like random crap like Louis and Harry being together. And people can really, because they don't know for sure, they're not 100% certain, they're in search of the truth. And their search for the truth becomes more and more warped, and they're forming their identity in it. They're talking about it with people, and as maybe the normals are like, dude, what's wrong with you? Why are you talking about this? Ew, why are you writing that story? Oh, why'd you draw that picture? Then there's a few that do like it. And then they get that affirmation from that. And then they form this coalition of people that are obsessed with the Larry Stylinson movement. And it just kind of goes from there. It's sad. I think it's really sad. And well, what I notice is it doesn't seem like Harry has really responded to it or been as bothered by it. And yeah, of course, Harry's just, part of his brand now is just being super feminine. Like what, he dressed like Dorothy and Wizard of Oz. Ugh. I used to find him so attractive, and then he started doing all that. Yeah, call me crazy. I don't really find it attractive when guys wear dresses. You know, I guess that's, you know, groundbreaking news, but I don't think it's cute. It's really disturbing, actually. And Harry's brand now is this whole, like, I'm a feminine guy, and I'm really kind of crossing the lines on what people think of gender and sex and all that. And so I don't think it really, the Larry Stylinson thing doesn't really hurt his brand in any way. But Louis just like, he's not as famous as Harry at this point. Harry is the most famous one, I would say. Probably then next is Zayn Malik, then probably Niall, then I think Louis, and then I think Liam. I'm such a nerd. Ew. I'm so, yeah, I don't like that I even, yeah, whatever. But it matters more for Louis. He's the one that kind of talks about it more. He's really bothered by it more. So, poor things. I really feel for them. They don't need my sympathy, but gosh darn it, they're going to get it. And that's on Mary Had a Little Lamb. Quiet, Mary. And your little lamb. And then real quick, I just wanted to say this. Our President Biden, he's doing another student loan debt relief. They're saying that it's going to cost $84 billion. It's just the estimate. It's a proposal. It's in addition to a $470 billion relief. The acronym is SAVE, Saving on a Valuable Education, which you could argue that. And then what's happening is it seems more like Biden is trying to find people that maybe are teetering on whether or not they'll vote for him. And that subgroup is probably these people that could benefit from this student loan relief. And he's going to, quote unquote, bless them at the expense of the people that are having to pay for other people's college. Is really what it is, because where's he getting this money from? Taxpayer dollars. And so if somebody else went to college and you didn't go, or you paid for your own college, you got to pay for their college. So, but yeah, all the people that went to college, they always say, go to college and that's what's going to make you successful. Well, then, based on that logic, the people that didn't go to college are maybe the lower class. And if they're the lower class and the people that went to college are the middle class or the upper class, why are you giving money? Why are you blessing the middle and upper class? Shouldn't you, if you really care about the lower class, shouldn't you be helping them? It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't make sense because it's not about who he's doing kind of a charitable act. It's not about that. It's about buying these votes. And it's a sad thing. It's a sad thing because for me, I don't like it. I don't like government handouts in the first place. Government is not our God. We don't need government. But if we're going to do it anyway, I don't want money being funneled to the middle and upper class. For what? These people that don't want to pay back what they owe? And then what's the thing? Oh, what do they always say? Oh man, well these 17-year-olds, these 18-year-olds, they signed up for these loans. They didn't know what they were doing. But then the conservative logic comes in, and what do they say? But you're saying that 10-year-olds, 5-year-olds even, they can decide if they're another gender, and they know all of it, and they can decide if they're into the same sex, and yeah, they can sign up for these surgeries where they can have genital mutilation. They know that, but they don't know anything about loans or paying for things, paying what they're owed, or paying back what they owe. They don't know about that. It's sad. It's sad. And I think it should stop. And so if you're wanting to vote for Biden, please don't. But if you want to, you're signing up for more trouble and misery. All right, let's go to the Bible verse. It's going to be Luke chapter 12, verse 8. Also I say to you, whoever confesses me before men, him the Son of Man also will confess before the angels of God. But he who denies me before men will be denied before the angels of God. And anyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man, it will be forgiven him, but to him who blasphemes against the Holy Spirit, it will not be forgiven. Yeah, the unforgivable sin, blaspheming the Holy Spirit. And yeah, I've always thought, oh, did I do that? Like, oh man, I'm so worried. But some pastor, I forget even who it was, like if you are worried about blaspheming the Holy Spirit, you have fear of God, and you have not done that. That's just not in you to do that, because you have a loyalty to the Holy Spirit. But I am so grateful for the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit dwells in me, and the awareness, the love, the care that the Holy Spirit allows me to have, the tenderness, the ability to sense from God what I should and shouldn't do, decisions I need to make. I can't take for granted. I can't take it for granted, because to not have that, I think we watch people so often. It's like, why'd you make such a stupid decision? Why'd you say such stupid things? And we have to remember, they don't have the Holy Spirit dwelling in them. And then also, obviously, the confessing God before men. We should do that. It's good for us. And it might be offensive to people. It seems like everything is nowadays. But if we don't share and we don't confess God before men, where else are they going to hear it? Because unbelievers, they don't really want to just go to church just for kicks and giggles. They're not really interested in that. And then the denial of God before men. And really Jesus, sorry. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, we shouldn't. And I know Peter denied Jesus. And then it was such a beautiful thing, because then he said, do you love me? Because Peter denied Jesus 3 times. And then Jesus like, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And he said, I love you. I love you. I love you. So it's really cool how it worked out. And just amazing that Jesus gave him the opportunity to do that. And so we always have an opportunity to be redeemed, to have redemption. And God's not afraid of our mistakes. But any opportunity that we can to confess God before men, to confess Jesus Christ before men, to confess the Holy Spirit before men, we should. We really should, because it's good for us. It's good for us. And every second that we're talking about Jesus is a second that we don't talk about what we should not be talking about. So I am grateful to God for you guys. And I hope you guys are blessed and stay blessed despite the mess. Stay fresh, freaky fresh, you guys. And I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.